Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express, the important news and editorial that will be relevant for the preparation of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 11th of May, the first important news, that is India and US to strengthen the G-20 cooperation. Prime Minister of India will be visiting United States. Second, study on Indian sewage treatment plant. We'll see some of the details how this sewage water can be used as a fertilizer. Third, Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi, a flagship program which was unveiled by the ministry. We'll see the detail. Second last, that is EPFO to work on priorities to clear the subscriber dues after the Supreme Court intervention. The EPFO has prompted the entire part of the dues clearance. And the last is an editorial, a ground view of the Indian Space Policy 2023, which was recently unveiled by the Government of India. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further ado, let's get started. And if you are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. And if you are preparing for prelims 2023, this is a must that you should have a mock test. And we at Apti Plus is organizing Prelims Mirror, a level of examination that will set you and give you an idea how the UPSC actual exam is being conducted. So this mock test is something which is a part and even in aligned with the parameters of the UPSC requirement. There will be two papers. First is General Studies paper 1, another CSAT paper. Consecutively, this will be followed. The date of the prelims mirror is 14th of May. To avail the benefit, you need to register yourself. And after registration, you can be the part of the All India mock test. So do check it out. मैंने वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में लिंक दिए हैं, आप ज़्यादा जानकारी वहाँ से ले सकते हैं. Now starting the first news, that is India-US to strengthen the G20 cooperation, something important for General Studies paper 2, that is bilateral regional grouping and agreement involving India and affecting India's interest. So the Prime Minister of India will be visiting to United States by an invitation which was there from the United States President, and this will be significant to have a vigor to the relationship between India and United States and setting a precedent for the new bilateral ties between both countries. Now the Prime Minister will show the partnership between the two countries, which will be more oriented towards people-centric, people-driven, and good for world at the large. So definitely this is a kind of a basically visit that is being made by the Prime Minister on request of the US President to strengthen and make the part of the bilateral ties between India and the United States more robust. What is the significance of this visit? Definitely there are some priority areas that government has confined, but to a larger extent, the Prime Minister who will be visiting will call for strengthening the two countries' shared commitment for free, open, prosperous and secure Indo-Pacific. And whenever we are talking about Indo-Pacific, Quad is something that is very important. You should know what is Quad. I've already made a discussion. If you haven't watched that video, or even you can Google search what is Quad, because in Indo-Pacific, Quad is very important, having the partnership of India and United States and other countries. Now it aims to resolve and elevate the strategic and technological partnership, including the defense, clean energy and space, right? So the other focus area includes the expansion of educational exchange, which has always been there when it comes to the part of India and US relations. People-to-people ties is again an important one. It's a confront common challenges and the climate change. Even to the larger forum, India has been advocating for the developed countries to come for the fund. And even just to remind you, अगर COP26 की बात करें, COP26 में loss and damage fund actually में conceptualize की गई है. So loss and damage fund, which is also known as LAD fund, is something very important when it comes to the restoration sustainable environment. Workforce development is other important aspects, and health security. These will be some of the focus and priority areas between India and United States. Now about G20, as we are discussing, some brief about G20 I think most of you must be aware of. Just to give you the glimpse, G20 was founded in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis. and the decision was taken by the central bank governors to come up with the G20. It aims to secure the global financial stability by involving the middle income countries. And if you see the part of the G20 constituent, it comprises of 85% of the global GDP, 75% of the global trade, and 2/3 of the world population. And this is something important for your examination. G20 की कोई अपनी permanent secretariat नहीं है. There's no secretariat or staff. This can be a direct question in UPSC prelims. Instead, G20 presidency occurs on a rotational basis every time member changes, and the duration for the member is 1 year. India is the present chair for G20. There can be most likely that the question might be there from the G20. Now, the members, like you should know what are the G7 member, G8 and G20. Accordingly, you can even take this screenshot for your revision purposes. Now, the second news, that is study on India's sewage treatment plant, something important for General Studies paper 3, that is conservation, environmental pollutions, degradations and EIA. So first of its kind analysis which is there on the sludges, this found that the Indian sewage treatment plants, that is like STP, set up to treat the polluted water from Gangas were found to be most high in potential, and this can be differently used for fertilizers, right? So this is what the study was found. But the polluted water need to have a treatment. You cannot use it directly. There had to be a treatment which could be used for unrestricted farm as a potential biofuel. Now, National Mission for Clean Ganga, this is something an important one. The National Mission for Clean Ganga, which is a flagship program by the Government of India, is to establish the treatment facilities for the prevention of the pollutions of the river and to derive the livelihood opportunities for the river regeneration program. This is a part of the National Mission on Clean Ganga. One of the measures under the Earth Ganga, that is the economic value of Ganga, how we can monetize the part and reuse the resources of water Ganga is an important component. This means that the sludges is a thick residue which is rich in organic chemical and even have a repository of heavy metals, right? Because over the time it developed some metal which can be used for industrial effluents, bacterial contaminations and even usable products such as manure and bricks. Now, classification of sludges की अगर बात करें, दो कैटेगरी के sludges होती है. There is a class A and class B. So these are the two category of sludges that is there. Class 1 की अगर बात करें, this being safe and disposed of in open and useful organic fertilizer, आप directly से use कर पाएंगे. When it comes to class B, these are the sludges that is used for restricted agriculture applications, right? These are the part of the edible part of the crop not exposed to the mixed sludges, and animal and people come into existence and contact. और इंडिया की बात करें, इंडिया does not have any yet standard when it comes to the classification of A और B sludges. But जो सबसे ज़्यादा sludges पाई जाती हैं वो sludges होती हैं B. Because the study was conducted by IIT Roorkee on the sludges and it found that most of the Indian sludges after drying fell into the class B category, right? Nitrogen, phosphorus level were the basic soil nutrients which is higher than the recommendatory of Indian fertilizer standard. However, potassium level in some of the samples were then recommended, and the total organic carbon content is less than 16%, again higher than the FCO recommendations, which is the degree for pathogen, heavy metal contaminations, and even other recommendation standard, which is there by the FC. Now, moving to the other news, Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi, a flagship program, something very important. Relevant for General Studies paper 2, that is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. So recently the Ministry of Child and Women Development has launched the flagship program called Poshan Bhi Padhai Bhi, right? So this is a Poshan Ma which Anganwadi people are celebrating, and even the learning process will be enhanced, and this is under the Poshan Abhiyan, which is Prime Minister overreaching scheme for holistic nourishment. So the ministry has allocated 600 crore rupees for the training of Anganwadi workers for the implementation of EEC. The National Institute of Public Corporations and Development has been roped for the training of the Anganwadi workers. So these are the two factual information that will be relevant for the prelims examination. Now, aim of the programs की अगर बात करें, the program aims to make the Anganwadi centers nutritional hub and educational imparting training. This will be part of the collaboration. One is for the nutritional hub and other is for imparting the education center. So EIC will be part. So the program will focus on the early childhood care education at Anganwadi across the country. Pan India this will be done. And EEC, that is the early education care and education, will focus on education on the mother tongue, which is basically a significant part of the focus which has been already put in the new education policy or National Education Policy 2020. So total alignment has been done focusing on the part of the National Education Policy. Government ने इसको ध्यान में रखते हुए सारी चीज़ों को strengthen किया है ताकि जो parameters set किए गए NEP के अंदर उसे पूरे किए जा सके. And the initiative targets the children's development in every domain. It's a part of the National Curriculum Framework, which was recently even updated by the Government of India. Physical and part of the motor development, cognitive development, socio-economic and ethical development, among others. Now, moving to the other news, EPFO to work on priorities to clear the subscriber dues, something important for General Studies Paper 2, that is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from a design and implementations. As most of you are aware of the fact that recently on the Supreme Court intervention, where the Supreme Court has categorically asked EPFO to ensure the higher pension, EPFO ने एक internal circulation release किया अपने regional offices में, and they have asked the concerned office and officers to look into the part of methods to calculate the dues to subscriber who have actually applied for the higher pension fund, right? Now accordingly इस circular में 8.33% जो employer की contribution है higher pension के लिए उसकी बात की गई है, जिस employees ने 95 के बाद join किया था, even for the payment that will be exceeding the wage ceiling, which has been recently revised by the government. 15,000 की ceiling की गई थी. Now this is not recently, but although 14 पे ये चीजें change हुई हैं. So accordingly the part will be there and 1.16% of the employer contribution will be mandated और ये pensions में भी लागू. EPFO has recently extended this to submit the point of the joint office, which employees can avail for the higher pension till June 26. Now current provisions क्या हैं? EPFO के members entitled हैं pensions after retirement और currently जो employees हैं, and even employers contribute 12% of their basic salary to the dearness allowances of the EPF. अगर employer की बात करें उनके 12% की जो contribution है 8.33 goes to the EPS, that is employment pension scheme, और EPF की अगर बात करें जो कि employment provident fund है उसमें 3.67 जाती है, right? और उसमें 1.1% की जो contribution है वो central government भी करती है. However, 8.33 EPS contribution is capped in the maximum amount of 50,000 and even employees draw the highest salary. तो अगर highest salary भी है 15 के ऊपर तब भी आपकी contribution 8.33% ही होगी. The cap is on the EPS contribution was introduced in 2014, the amendment of the EPS Act. That is what I told you at the beginning. सुप्रीम कोर्ट की क्या डायरेक्शन थी इस रिगार्ड में? सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा दैट दे हैव स्ट्रक डाउन द रिक्वायरमेंट फॉर 2014 अमेंडमेंट वेयर 1.16% ऑफ द कंट्रीब्यूशन वाज रिक्वायर्ड पर्सन हैविंग सैलरी ऑफ मोर देन 15,000, राइट? एंड दिस फैसिलिटी ऑफ द सब्सक्राइबर टू कंट्रीब्यूट द हायर scheme could enhance accordingly. And EPFO has provided important clarification that 1.16% of the additional contribution will be diverted within the overall 12 contribution जो कि employer की होती है. तो जो additional employees को देनी पड़ती थी 1.16% के, this will be omitted, this will be nullified, and the total contribution will be made from this 12% only. So this is a possible point if you're preparing for any other competitive examination other than UPSC, there can be a relevance of this. Now, moving to the editorial of the day, a ground view of the Indian Space Policy 2023, something important for General Studies Paper 3, that is achievement of India in science and technology, Indianization of technology, and development of new technology. So looking into the part of this editorial and the focus of this editorial, first talking about the theme and focus of this editorial, that is Indian Space Policy 2023. The issues include the private sector involvement, remote sensing data policy, features of new space policy, non-government entities के बारे में देखेंगे, क्या क्या gaps हैं, loopholes हैं, and the way forward. So recently the Union Cabinet has approved the Indian Space Policy, और ये policy expect करती है to provide a framework of the space sector in the overall part with the next decade where the Indian space sector will be augmenting and the private contributions, the private partnership will increase in the space sector. Department of Space shall have overseas implementations of the policies as a nodal department for the same, because जो commercial arm थी Antrix Q से dissolve कर दिया गया, omit कर दिया गया. We'll see and discuss on the later part of the video. Now, private sector involvement की अगर बात करें, since 1990 Indian space sector और जो space economy that was defined by ISRO, private sector की involvement there was there, but it's not to the larger extent, right? And even the second space has begun by licensing TV channel and even exploring the part of internet, mobile phonery and part of emergence of the smartphone. Then the private people come into the play into the space sector. Now today, ISRO की जो budget है, that is approximately 1.6 billion. The Indian space economy is over 9.6 billion. Broadband, OTT, that is broadband की बात करें, over the top platforms हैं, जो OTT जितने platforms हैं, 5G, there will be double digit annual growth that is there from the satellite based services. And this is only the future for India, right? For not only for India, for across the globe, it has been a precedent that has been said that yes, satellite based services is going to be the next big change. It is estimated that enabling environment in the space industries is very important. That will definitely aid this sector to grow by 60 billion by 2030. This is what is anticipated by the expert. और इसमें जो jobs create होंगी वो almost 2 lakhs के आसपास jobs create होंगी. Remote sensing data policy, as a remote sensing data policy was introduced in 2001, which was amended in 2011, and even then after 2016 it has replaced the national geospatial policy. उसके बाद further Indian users ने security और defense agencies को ध्यान में रखते हुए dollars procure किए, and even Earth observatory data were there for imaginary of the foreign resources. So these were some of the changes on the remote sensing data policies. That to streamline that, the draft space policy bill was brought in 2017 through a consultative process, which was actually lapsed on the part of 2019 Lok Sabha. But government की expectations थी कि 21 इस bill को लाई जाएगी, but the part of the involvement of the remote sensing has actually not, which is actually, you can see the part is already there in the part of the new policy, right? So it appears that it has contented itself with the new policy. तो कहीं ना कहीं उसे उस component को include कर दिया गया, especially इसके लिए bill नहीं table की. Now features of the new space policy, as I've told you that it has make defendant on the part of the Antrix, और जो सारी roles है वो Department of Space को दी गई है, and even to extent the National Space Promotional Authorization Center, that is in space, will be the part which will be taken care for the New Space India Limited, that is NSIL, right? तो ये काफी important है, आप इसके ऑफिस के बारे में देख लें, directly relevant for prelims. ISRO will have a transitions out existing practices which will be representing the part of the manufacturing and space, right? And the ISRO shall focus on research and development, advancing technology, proving the newest system, and providing realization for meeting the national prerogatives. The policy focuses upon the civilian and peaceful applications. Kuch non-government entities will be also the part of the new policies that will call for the special sector like space object, ground-based assets, related services such as communications, remote sensing and navigation. Or in space is expected to create a stable, predictable regulatory framework that will ensure a level playing field for NG. This will act as a promoter by setting the industry's cluster as a regulator, issues guideline on the liability issues. Gaps की अगर बात करें, the policy set out ambitious role of InSpace by providing time frame for the necessary. And this is neither indicative timeline for ISRO transitioning out for the current practice, that is schedule for InSpace creating the regulatory framework. The policy framework envisages that will near clear the regulations pertaining to the appellate framework for the dispute settlement. Now to the way forward, अगर Indian space policy की बात करें, this is a forward looking document that has a good intention and even to enhance and make the development in the part of the space sector which can further grow till 2020. 2030 की अगर बात करें, this can go up to $60 billion. But there's an urgent need to frame the policy to provide the necessary legal framework and even the visions to make it reality and successful part of the Indian space sector. Definitely the contributions of the private sector will have a big and major role to play in this. Now moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day, before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday's questions. For first question, the correct option is B. For second question, the correct option is C. Today's MCQ for practice, that is about the global network access to internet interstate transmission system. आपको इस स्टेटमेंट को कंसिडर करनी है दैट सपोर्ट सिस्टम हैव टू रीएस्टैब्लिश द एग्जिस्टिंग इंटरस्टेट कनेक्टिविटी टू ओपन एक्सेस नेटवर्क. This seeks to do away with the predetermined point to the transmission access. So do check out for the correct option. Now the second question of the day is Acclaim Model Residential School. It was established by the Union Minister for Education and started in 1997 to provide the quality education to the scheduled tribe people. So do check out for the correct option. Practicing a lot more question will give you an edge over the upcoming prelims examination. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.